FM radio was not like AM. AM radio is like a big magnet or a light bulb. You put the light out and it goes in all directions depending on the power of the station, and it's subject to static. The FM is the wrong name really. It's all in very high frequency radio. The FM is just a different means of putting the voice on it, where it's above static. So I knew enough from VHF repeaters that we would be able to pump signals in and run the three stations as one. And that time, believe it or not, this was quite a feat in the industry in mountain areas. Nobody had ever put anything like this in mountain areas. And then we found we had to hire a professional engineer to make the projections for the coverage, and they work on certain formulas. Well, I knew that we work on reflections. The coverage at the Squamish station wasn't going to go beyond Britannia, and we'd already had VHF for the BC Electric in Horseshoe Bay that was working up at Chacamas. I mean, we knew that signals were going through there. But one of the things we did find out in the technical is that when you put antennas up, there's two types: the horizontal, or a vertical, or a circular polarized, which is a combination of the two. And by accident, we put the circular polarized on Squamish, and we had terrific coverage because the signal and the house sound would bounce on each side of the mountains, and they cancel each other and distort. And seeing that they were horizontal and vertical at each time, it was pretty clear. We did, after some years, when we had to change frequency, we did go to horizontal areas, and it was such a disaster that we hardly had any signals up and down house sound at all. That's how noticeable it was. So I'm not an engineer, I'm an informed technician, so there's always a gap between the engineer and the technicians, you understand. One that has field experience and the one who uses the slide rule, which they don't use anymore. Anyways, they were astounded at the coverage. And then Squamish, of course, had reflections across, and it was even heard in Vancouver Island. And was it Blackwater on the island? A place that's called there?
Black Creek.
Black Creek, that's it. There's been a long area in Vancouver Island we used to listen to Mountain FM. We gave them voting rights with the exception of the disposition of the station. So they always attended meetings and could make a contribution if they so wished. So the other thing that you have when you're applying for a station, you would be amazed at the sticky flies you have. People like to be associated with what they perceive as power or something. They're around you all the time, and they want to be part of the radio station, and you eventually get a lot of stringers, which you need to work for you and do things for free, because in a community that's what you need. So finally we get all these stations working, and I climbed the towers, and I had Wayne Ferguson working for me, he likes to do the impossible. Another problem we had one day, Whistler was rebroadcasting Squamish, and the CBC put in FM in Whistler at their site. And as soon as they put their transmitter on the air, we're rebroadcasting Portland, Oregon. If you take the frequency they were receiving, and you take the frequency that we were receiving from Squamish, and you add them together, and you double them and take a third of it or something, and that is what you were getting.
Oh.
So we had to order from the States and fly in a filter that was tuned in that would take that right out. So we put that in the coax cable and it's gone. These are things you don't read about.
Yeah, indeed.
Then I had another servicing problem to do. Always Christmas Eve we go off the air. Well, one time we go off the air, we had to hire the helicopter, come up to the lake, we get down, it's about 4 o'clock, and I said, well, take me up and down the power line. And going up, all the power poles are up in the rocks and Squamish. And what the problem took place, it flips a fuse, a breaker at the bottom pole, on which you have a key and you flip the pole and you can put the power back on. is a peculiar icing condition. They have the one wire in the top of you in hydro, the hot wire, then the ground wire is a little bit below. Well, you get so much ice on the top wire and it sags, and all of a sudden when the thaw comes, it goes like this. It goes close enough, there's an arc momentarily, shuts the transmitter off. We went on the air in 1980 in Squamish, and we went on the air in Whistler in 1982, and about 82 and a half we went on the air in Pemberton, and something like that. And we ran the station, but in 1999 we sold it. We'll come to that later. Radio station, it never was. I wanted to run it like you did it in the 30s, and it would have worked very well. And actually, that's a radio for a small town today. The way you run it in the 30s is the way it is. But we got stuck with big expense. We started off with records and cassette tapes, and then the CD discs come in, machines come in, where they program them all, and it does it all for you. And you just sit there, and the computer says you can speak and do your thing, and that's it. And then they move out of there into another method. The expense was becoming so prohibitive, there was no way you're going to survive in there. It had to be tied with a big network where they can move all that stuff around. Then as time went on, we expanded the network to the Sunshine Coast. We put a station on Boone Island, beaming up the coast, and we put one at Seashell, Pender Harbor. First of all, I could only see this station surviving if it got tied into a network where they had more resources. In other words, it can move resources around stations. So we applied for a station, and we wanted to apply for the North Shore, and where to put an antenna. The Indian band wouldn't allow any tower, and John Reynolds says to me, our MLA, he says, I'll talk to Alec Fraser, I could get you to put your antenna on the north tower of the Landscape Bridge. That was unheard of, I'll tell you. I get a letter from the engineers, U.S. minister, he says, we've been instructed from the ministry to accommodate you to put an antenna on the tower. I need such a day, and you're not to drill any holes in the tower, anything you do, you're to weld it on. And our transmitter house was going to be between the legs of the tower and the bottom, and there, all fine, approved, no problem. So we were going to broadcast north of Vancouver interest, also bridge traffic, and at the same time take a recreation ski all the way into Whistler. In other words, it's going to be predominantly a ski recreation station, and tie that in. So this went in pretty well, and then of course the Vancouver stations got particularly upset about it. CFUN had applied 3 times and never got refused, and they said, well, we should have our nose in the trough next time, not Mountain FM. But CKNW really went all out. They said, well, they're just little pipsqueaks, they have little stations here, little stations there, and they won't do a good job, and they won't be this. And they said there was no frequency, so what we were going to do, we were going to move the Squamish frequency to Vancouver. We showed that there was a gap in their planning, and we could take 7 out of Powell River that are not used and move it into Squamish. And that was bright. So we never got it, and then now that they found out that they could move all that, another opposition was the station Star FM in Abbotsford. They wanted to put a station in Abbotsford. They said it wouldn't cover Vancouver, but it did. And their aim, of course, was to get on the Vancouver market. And they really did a number on us, let me tell you. So when I got up, and I didn't want to say these are lies or untruths, they just get up and said, Mr. Potvin, that's just another red herring. You know, you can't respond to stuff like that. You know, you can't. So the CRTC wants to always look good. The CRTC wants to be popular. They want to make the decision that looks good for them. When we applied for Squamish, Whistler, and Pemberton, it was finished at midnight, in bed about 1:30 in the morning, the phone rings. And remember, when you're having this hearing, you have all the people from the CRT sitting on one side. They're the people who really made the decisions. He says, Mr. Potvin, you have yourself a license, he says. He says, it's the most interesting, comprehensive presentation I've ever heard. He says, thank you. You don't say things like that, but that was nice to know.
It's 1:30 in the
But
morning.
we're all a nervous wreck after all that. So anyways, our application for North Shore was denied. Then after that, of course, I got a flood of people afterwards. How did you go about getting a permit to put a license on the bridge? We want to put one too. How do you do that? There was no more to it, but I just told you. Reynolds just told Fraser that we'd like to do that, and Fraser said, you serious? Yeah, he said, I'll tell my men to accommodate him. No more than that. Mind you, I voted for him.